Hi guys, Char here. So for this video, we'll be going through Zhou, which is Gong Gong. Alright, so this Esper here is already at PTS server, so we're gonna take a look at his kit, his reso. I did some testing. It's not too deep, just some basic testing, and also showcase it at the end of the video and explain how he works. But basically, he is a PvP Esper. The kit itself doesn't seem like a PvE Esper at all. He have a potential for PvE Esper if he can only apply his debuff, but for now he can't. Alright, so let's take a look at his 3D model. Alright, so this is his 3D model. You can see pretty cool. I like his model. Very cool snake tail here. And you can see the skin here. You have the glowing skill surrounding it, and then the glove is not it's not fully wear, and then you have the bracelet here, which is his main weapon. Alright, so overall, he's like a mini Artiar plus Moriyama plus Suizai plus who else? Basically, he has a lot of different Esper kit within him himself. I would say that he is actually Moriyama, but works differently. It's more about a sustained way of Moriyama when he is as R6. But let's take a look. This is his Divinate when his HP percentage is equal or greater than 50%, and then his S3 final damage was increased by 25%, which is very pain to boost his S3 damage. This is his Divinate art. It's like a working life, just like me. And then his rival rune is going for attack and Avatara, which totally suits for him. This is the stats he's going for. And then he have a leader buff of attack for PvP content 40%. Alright, so S1. Attack enemy 2 times up to 55%, so per hit, so 2 hit is 110%. Then you inflict 1 stack of overtime on the target, which the overtime is reduce the enemy max HP by 8% per stack. So if you have all 5 stack, the enemy will reduce their max HP by 40%. Each dispelling attempt remove only 1 stack, so it's kind of something like Suizai as well, because their debuff can stack together, and if you want to dispel it, you're gonna require more dispel attempt. So it will be strong when you dispel the enemy immunity and you stack up a lot of debuff. Then this overtime debuff is going to be very annoying. But if you don't have a Esper that can dispel the enemy immunity, then it will be very hard. And the thing is, this Esper is surrounding around the overtime debuff. So if you cannot apply the overtime debuff on the enemy, then it will be a very hard position for him to actually play. So such as when you are fighting Esper who have Spirit Aegis, it's a little bit harder, but you can, which I'll showcase at the back of the video, if you fight a Spirit Aegis target. And if you fight enemy like Suizai or Hyde or Wu Yu or Esper that doesn't get debuff at all, or Esper that have immunity by themselves, like let's say Clara can dispel and cleanse by herself, then it will be a hard time for him to play because his kit is surrounding around this overtime debuff. Okay, then this S1 here, if you press auto mode, he will also prioritize on the enemy who have the most overtime. So you use Avatara or you use SCs that trigger his S1 will also apply the overtime target. Then you have attack, HP, and crit damage. So he is a mixture of attack and tankiness. Passive. At the start of the combat, Zhou, which is him, will grant slack body to the ally who have the highest speed. So let's say your ally is going to be Chuyao. Then Chuyao will have this slack body golden rune buff. Then meanwhile, he himself will gain a slack off and reduce the final damage taken by 40%. So he himself will go into defensive mode. And this reduced final damage taken is kinda something like Meta Yinchuan, but works differently. So Meta Yinchuan is reduce the enemy damage, and he himself is reduce the damage taken by himself by 40%. So he's gonna be very tanky in this slack off mode. But if you go into the tough it out mode, then he's gonna be not that tanky. So this final damage taken reduce can up to 80%. It's going to be very tanky for him, but it will slowly decrease the effect by the end of each enemy active turn. So if assuming you have him R0 and you skill him up to 80%, which means if the enemy take 2 turns with a 2 active turn, then you no longer have this final damage taken, because it's 40%, and then every time they take an active turn, it's going to reduce 40%, so 80%, 2 times, then there's no longer final damage taken. What I haven't tested is every time when I get back the slack off, will I refresh this as well? This is what I haven't tested yet. So if it actually able to refresh this, then the amount of the reduction is actually makes sense. But if it doesn't refresh, then which means he can only be put in a fast hit. This part I haven't tested. Then the other thing, Slack Buddy. So let's say I apply Slack Buddy to Chu Yao. Then whenever Chu Yao ends his turn, then Zhou Hong will get AP push. And whenever Chu Yao attack the target, they will also apply 1 overtime stack, but it will only trigger after it hits. So let's say Chu Yao dispel, and then Chu Yao apply defense break, calamity, and seer. Right, then after applying all these things, after all the damage, then we'll only apply the overtime stack on the target. Then it will only trigger once per turn against each target. Then if Chu Yao dies, then this Slack Buddy will transfer to the other target who have the highest speed besides Gong Gong. So whenever you have Slack Buddy, he himself will go into Slack off, so he can rest aside. He will go into his defensive mode, he'll reduce his own speed, and if the target have overtime because your Chu Yao cast Dispel on the enemy, then he when he get hit, then he'll restore 30% of his max HP. So this is something like Artiar, but the condition is only if the enemy gets overtime. If the enemy don't get overtime, then you are not able to recover your own HP. So that's one condition RNG layer here. Then if any enemy reaches the max overtime stack, which is 5 stack, then Zhou Hong will switch into Slack off to tough it out, which is increase his attack by 150% attack. This is very strong because he's unlike Sui Zai, is 200% attack, right? Sui Zai cannot get any other buff, but he can get buff from the other units such as attack up buff, crit rate up buff, crit damage up buff. All these kind of buff will benefit him. So when he go into tough it out mode, then he's going to be very, very strong. Then when he go into tough it out, he will also dispel all his debuff and then get an extra turn. All his debuff, including control effect and all kind of like attack down, all those things will also get dispelled. So from this part, the passive here, you already notice that his playstyle is more about he go into defensive mode, which is Slack off, and then Chu Yao, which is the other Esper who have the highest speed, will try to apply as many overtime stack as possible to the target. And when the overtime stack is max, then he'll go into his one punch man mode, because he'll go into tough it out and keep spamming his S3. So let's take a look at his S3. S3, attack one enemy, and then it's only one hit, and you can go up to 320% damage. It will prioritize on the enemy who have the most overtime stack. Then killing the enemy, he'll restore his max 100% of his HP, and then reset his S3. So this part here is kind of like Moriyama, but in a different condition way. So Moriyama can ignore enemy defense and ignore enemy defense 85% and damage mitigation when his attack is higher than an enemy. So that's what Moriyama does, and Moriyama is a Shimmer Esper. And he is not a Shimmer Esper, he's an Inferno Esper, but he's a budget Moriyama that works differently. So he only able to start one-shotting people when he get his tough it out. Then the tough it out condition is enemy get 5 stack of overtime. So I feel like his damage is going to be something like Moriyama, but it requires time to set up. So it's a slower Moriyama in a way, I would say. But in order to be like Moriyama damage, which is damage ignore, defense ignore, is at his R6. So let's take a look at his reso. R1, his S3 final damage increased by 10%. R2, killing enemy while he's in tough it out, is active. He'll increase his AP by 25%, so he'll get faster turn to hit the enemy. Then R4, at the start of the combat, reduce the final damage taken by 80%, right? This effect reduced by 20% at the end of each active turn. So instead of 40% reduction, it's going to be 20% reduction. So it will be very tanky when he'll be very tanky in his slack off mode. Then R6 is every stack of overtime on that target, then he'll ignore 15% of the target defense. So maximum up to 75% because you can stack 5 times. So from what I'm looking at now, definitely is a PvP Esper. Because I test out the overtime debuff, you cannot apply on bosses unless the boss can get affected by max HP reduction. From what I'm testing now, there's only one boss will get affected, which is Dark Starlord. Then the other bosses can't get this overtime stack. So maybe he have usage in Dark Starlord, but for now, he seems like a pure PvP Esper. Is a budget Moriyama in a way. Okay, so let me show you how it works in PvP, right? So I'm not going to directly go into PvP. I'm going to test him in the VR Battleground first. And this is the home screen for the spring, pretty nice. Alright, so let's take a look at the VR Battleground. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do these two combo. So I'm going to apply, use Sakura to damage on the enemy to apply the overtime. Right, so quick response, I slack off, then my Sakura goes into slack off buddy. Okay, now enemy here, everyone doesn't have any debuff, so my Sakura have the slack buddy. So I cast S3 AoE damage to everyone. Okay, after damaging, then I only apply the overtime. Then the overtime is the debuff that reduces the enemy max HP capacity. And you can notice that the max HP capacity reduction is pink color because the max HP debuff here can be dispelled. Alright, so let me heal back. Dispel. And every time the enemy hit on him, he can recover his HP by 30%. Okay, so another thing about this overtime. If you manage to apply the overtime and if you manage to hit 5 stack, it's actually a very fun gameplay. So what I'm going to do now is Sakura is going to hit this guy again. So he have 3 stack of overtime. So what I'm going to try to do is I want to apply 5 stack of overtime on this guy. S1, apply another stack, 4 overtime stack, right? Then my Sakura is going to S1 on the target to instantly trigger his passive, which is whenever an enemy reach max stack of overtime, he will instantly get 1 turn. So you can see here, he is actually the last unit now to take the action, but if I hit on this target, he get max stack, then Zhou instantly get a turn, then he go into tough it out, which is 150% attack buff. Alright, so I can either one punch him or do S1. Right, so let's say I one punch him. Then it will do a damage here, and I recover HP based on what I do. Then now they start attacking me again. So keep note, now the enemy here got 4 stack. Then my Sakura is going to take my turn. Alright, I got taught. Okay, never mind. Okay, now this guy got 4 stack, right? Okay, let me stack him, let me attack him. Alright, now I'm going to ask him. So now he 5 turn, 5 stack, it will instantly trigger his tough it out again, another additional bonus turn. S1 again. Then now Sakura turn, now look at it, he have 5 stack of overtime. And if I S1 to apply another overtime stack on that target, Zhou will instantly get his bonus turn again. Which means even though he have 5 stack of overtime, then he'll re-trigger the buff and reapply over bonus turn for himself. So if I S1 again to apply overtime, I won't trigger anything because that's continuously. But now I can re-trigger when my Sakura take the turn. Alright, S1, then re-trigger his tough it out. Then let's say I'm going to apply on you. You got 5 stack. Sakura S1 on you. I trigger my tough it out again. Then I can get another bonus turn. Something like that. So even the target already have max stack, you can re-trigger the passive continuously until the target die. Something like that. This is just a very early testing about him. It doesn't seem very good at R0, at least from what I'm testing now. I'll do more testing for Dark Starlord, and I'm asking support if there's a bug that we cannot apply the overtime on the boss. I'll do some PvP testing in test server as well. For now, I can't say much about him, is good or not. We need to wait for more information, which is after like a really good team comp, and then I test him in global server and see if he's actually that good in PvP. But if you like his design, he's definitely worth the design. Alright, so basically that's all. Hope you guys enjoyed the video and see you guys in the next one. Bye bye. Special thanks for the direct support on the YouTube membership. So for the benefactor of Artiar, which is Yakishiba Tales, Epic Bullet Boy, thank you so much for your support. And for the supporter or patron of Artiar, which is Louis Schneider, Agni, Wang Tamer, Ziggy, Kamaruki, Sunwalks, Rimu, Chani, Antonio Winterspoon, Ilm Cragren, Riku Fred X Iris, Calamity, Rocco Stenzions, thank you so much for your support. Special thanks for the direct support on the live stream super chat for the latest tag. Thank you so much for Code Wilderness, Calamity, Agni, Love Fatima, Fatima Little Underwear, Bloods, Riku Fred, Chani. Thank you so much for your support.